Hi, good morning, everybody. Beautiful sunny autumnal morning, and welcome to this morning's Job Train How Talent session, where we're going to cover and discuss and hopefully answer all your questions around EVP and Employer Brand. And to help me out with that this morning, I'm delighted to be joined by John Tarrant from DNA. We've had some great sessions with them before, so we're delighted when they offered to come back and cover another one. We are all operating in really challenging times around recruitment. Candidate scarcity is a big problem. We are in a situation now where employment is at an all-time high and unemployment is an all-time low. And it's probably more important now than ever to find new and inventive ways of really engaging with potential talent before we bring them into the funnel and hopefully have really good, well-qualified candidates. So whilst we live in uncertain times in terms of the economy and some of the frankly crazy decisions that are being made by our government, it is very important not to pull back from marketing and brand and engagement and those types of things. We've seen through COVID and even actually more recently through the death of our Queen, how different companies have approached how they've handled that, how they've communicated to their audience, to their customers, to their potential hires. And some have got it right and some have spectacularly and got it wrong. I'm thinking of the Centre Parks debacle specifically. This session is for you, so do please ask any questions you've got in the Ask Questions bit, which is just down here. We'd love your questions. We'd love to answer them. We have stuff prepared. We're going to cover quite a few bits this morning, specifically how to actually create a business case. How do I get that proved? How do I cover ROI or prove ROI around employment brand? That's quite a perennial problem. What kind of objectives should I be covering? What's the process? How long does it take? How do I activate it? We'll cover all these things this morning. But without any further ado, I'm going to invite John on screen and we'll get started. So let's find John now. Should also be live on LinkedIn as well. So just going to find John, invite him on screen. There we go. Grab a quick slurp of coffee and we'll get started. Just before we do, can I just check that everybody can hear and see me okay this morning? Good morning, John.
Hi there. How are you doing, Charles? You fitting well?
How are you?
Yeah, all good. Nothing bad. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, all good. I think your intro was absolutely bang on. We are, there are uncertain times out there with, new government, new policies, the effect of the war, cost of living crisis. But some of the problems that the talent community are facing now, they're still going to face them in 6 months' time or 12 months' time because there are still far too many jobs than there are good people to do them.
Yeah.
And if you go back to previous, in very recent times, in previous areas of uncertainty like COVID, and before that Brexit, what we've seen is that the people who paused or hesitated, they were then on the back foot for the next 6 months or 2 years. So you can't pause, you can't hesitate. You've got to stay focused and you've got to stay on it.
So yes, keep that cadence up all the time.
Whatever might happen over 6 or 12 months, the advice that we're giving to clients at the moment is, don't do what happened in COVID where people had a bad COVID or stop because you're uncertain around Brexit. You have to almost just keep on keeping on. And even if you're not actively hiring, or maybe the heat's gone out a little bit of your hiring. So some of our talent clients have had the heat taken off on things like time to hire. Building your employer reputation upstream, that can never sleep. That's a 52-week-a-year process, because if you want to be seen as a good employer, you've got to be seen in the first place, and that means building your reputation upstream. So we've run a couple of these sessions for the talent community this year. One right at the start of the year, one sort of at the end of the spring, where we just said, look, everybody, there's huge amounts of change going on in the marketplace. As organizations came out of COVID, some of them had a bit of a sort of an existential moment where they're thinking, hang on a minute, I knew what we were going into COVID, but I'm not really quite sure what we are coming out. We're trying to align people with our purpose. We're trying to come to terms with attracting, recruiting, onboarding, inducting, engaging staff in a hybrid setting. We're now not just hybrid, we work from anywhere. So employee engagement and well-being are now one and the same thing, which they never used to be before. They were two separate boxes we had to tick. So hang on a minute, who are we and what do we stand for? So we've had a lot of people contact us to try and help them get that anchor in place, I guess. We've also had a huge number of people who come to us and said, by God, we know there's a war for talent going on out there, and we don't necessarily have to win, but we'd like to compete if possible. And at the moment, we're losing at both ends because we've got a lot of people heading out the back door, and we're trying to control it. But equally, we need to compete in the external talent market. We feel like we've got a great story, but we haven't been able to shape it in the right way, and we haven't been able to deliver it to the talent market in the right way, and it's killing us every day. So for some, it was the existential thing, who are we, what do we stand for? For others, it was much more practical and pragmatic around, I need to find key people, I need to find people who are going to succeed and stay and thrive in my environment, and I need to engage the people we've got, and the way I can do that is with a compelling EVP, and an employer brand which I can sell in a measurable way to my staff every day. So, gosh, we've had lots of talent attraction people where the things that are keeping them awake at 3:30 in the morning are actually solvable, because us and there's loads of good agencies out there, not just DNA, that us and the other good agencies are solving them for them. So I think the purpose for me today is maybe show some of those questions that have been asked by other talent professionals and show you the answers. And then as and when any other questions come up throughout the course, just chuck them in. And as you know from dealing with us, we're a pretty straightforward bunch. Ask us anything you like, we'll give you a straight answer to the best of our ability. So really happy to do that. And I guess from our point of view, if we've answered some of those questions and helped people's thinking along a bit about the possibilities in their organisation, then that's probably time well spent for us.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I'm guessing today that in terms of the lens in on a company has probably been, it's even brought into even more sharp focus when we look at EVP, employer reputation, people's perceptions or experiences of that organisation. I can think of, well-publicised news stories of Jacob Rees-Mogg breathing down the necks of employees that aren't at work and that kind of thing. But that has an impact on people's perception of the brand or an organisation, what it's like to work for. And equally in terms of how people have treated or do treat or do seek to, for those of us that have either hybrid or fully remote working environment, the importance of fostering that culture within an organisation and encapsulating it and keeping it in some way, which I imagine is probably a little bit more of a challenge now. Some have got it right and perhaps some not quite so much.
We take clients on a journey, and often they start in a place we call transactional employment, which is your employee turns up, you pay them, and that's as far as it goes. But employees' expectations of employers is significantly higher now.
Yeah.
Whether time is a very important thing for people. They like choice in organising their own schedule around their other responsibilities in their life. Now more than ever, people seek meaning in their work and meaning in their employer. So whether it's purpose or whether it's the good that I do, or whether understanding that what I do in my daily job really matters.
All the good that the employee does, I guess, as well. And that used to be almost a generational thing. It was suggested that Gen Z put a bit more emphasis on it. But I think most of us now have changed our outlook in terms of the world of work or the organisation in which we work and what that means to us, and also perhaps what's our contribution either within the workplace or even outside of it.
Yeah, completely. And the focus thing is really key. We had a conversation this morning with a client, and it's, there's 68 million people in the UK. And you don't want them all to come and work for you, but there is a certain type of person who will succeed and stay and thrive, and that's what we've got to focus on. But the meaning thing is key. So that bit where they used to just be happy in transactional employment, you have to take them on a journey to a genuine level of emotional engagement where they're driven by the intrinsic motivators, where they want to come to work and do the right thing, as opposed to just be driven by the carrot and the stick. And if you take either the carrot or the stick away, the behavior you want just dissipates. And then making sure that your leaders and managers are consistently and cohesively delivering the employment experience that you promised effectively the employee throughout your the time of your emotional contract with them. So
Yes, I mean you've got their buy-in, and that's something that they're living and breathing, which is probably quite a nice little segue into the start of this conversation in terms of how to build a business case, how to improve ROI, that kind of thing. I know you've got some slides to show. I don't know if you're able to do that from here, or whether you want me to. Just let me know. It's going to be death by PowerPoint, everybody, and please do ask questions as we go along. I'll keep an eye on the questions there.
Let me see if how do I share my screen, Charles? Talk amongst yourselves.
So there should be, if you hover over your face with your mouse, there's
a
little toolbar that pops up, and there should be an option to share on that.
Got it.
You got it? Great.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh no, it'll be the PowerPoint, the PDF that you want to share.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. I picked the wrong one. Apologies.
Problems.
Good gracious me! What's that? Giles, would you like to do the presentation while I faff through this? Can you see my screen? It looks like the opening credits are top of the
Hold on a second. Right, everybody. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Great, super. All right. John, off we go.
Okay. Hold on a sec, because you can see it, but I can't. Sorry, everyone.
Right. A few technical problems here. We're going to get John back in a minute. The wonders of modern technology. So we'll get John back, and then I'll share my screen. I think it's probably the easiest way to do it, everybody. So hold on. We'll get John back in, and I'm going to share my screen here. Welcome back, John.
All right,
I'm going to share my screen with you now. Hang on. Right, so let's get started.
All right, great stuff. So we sort of covered that bit in terms of the typical questions that were asked. Just go on to the next screen, please, John. Next slide. So these were the typical questions. You could probably don't know lots of people saying, "Look, I've developed my EVP. How do I lock it in? What do I do next? Because if I'm developing the EVP, it has to be a means to an end, not an end in itself. So what do I do next?" We've spoken to lots of smaller organizations, and they're saying, we're trying to compete with larger, better funded, higher profile organizations. And, they are several thousand people. We're only a few hundred. How do we compete? And the answer is, the good news is you can, but you just need to organize your assets in the right way. Some people are saying, I'd love to do an all singing, all dancing EVP and employer brand. I recognize that's probably anything between a 8 or 12 and 16-week process, but I'm getting beaten up every day on cost per hire, time to hire, access to rare talent. So I need to move more quickly. What can I do? Another question, what objectives should I be setting? If it's going to be a means to an end, not an end in itself, and they're going to have genuine ROI, then we need smart objectives. Another typical question was what is the process? How long does it take? So we can show you the process if that helps. And then, as Giles mentioned before, it's not just about good messaging and good creativity. It has to have a business case. We have to have ROI. It has to be good for the staff, good for the candidates, obviously, good for the TA teams, but most importantly, good for the bottom line. In terms of definition of an EVP is a sort of change. It used to be all about the promise, come on in, everybody, the water's lovely. Then it was a bit more give and get. The definition we're using to help clients achieve the things they want from an EVP at the moment is this statement of intent as to what you stand for and how you want to be known. And that works as a platform and keeps you honest in all of the EVP and the employer branding messaging. From an employer brand point of view, again, there's a number of definitions out there. Yes, brand equals identity plus reputation, and you build your reputation, you earn your reputation through repetition. But if we go on, Giles, into the definition of an employer brand, it's your strategy to appeal to current and future talent. That's the most important thing. And the key thing that everybody forgets is current. They've got to buy your brand every day, as we said earlier. So in terms of those questions, Giles, I'll just go through them in this order, if you like. These were the rank order when people were asking. More people asked this one. So, sorry, just go forward a bit to the question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I've developed my EVP. How do I lock it in? Well, here are the ways that you lock it in. Brand guidelines. I'll show you some examples in a moment. You have to lock in the letter of the law and the spirit of the law with your brand guidelines. Having done all of that work in crafting your message, you can't then have it diluted. How else do you lock your EVP and your employer brand in? You launch it internally properly to create pride, excitement, understanding internally. A lot of people, we're developing playbooks at the moment. So, yes, we've got brand guidelines. Yes, we do the launch, but the playbook allows you to have one version of the truth. That understanding about who we are, what we stand for. For some clients, they say, how do we make it different and special? For others, you say, you can go beyond different and special. There's another level, and we can make it tribal. So there's clear blue water between you and your competitors. Your staff will fizz into work eager to work there every day to make a difference. And more importantly, we can build you a magnet branding external marketplace. But that playbook as one version of the truth is a fabulous tool for you. And then also, last couple of things in terms of locking it in, having developed your brand guidelines, then develop the job ad toolkit. Don't let marketing, or don't let somebody else go and run off and try and interpret what they might be. You can lock it in with the job ad toolkit, so we've got the right message going to the right people in the right way. And for you time poor talent attraction and resourcing people, to have your job ad toolkit ready, oven ready, apologies, is the gift that keeps on giving. And then in terms of the gift that keeps on giving, something called a social ad creator, where as soon as you've got a vacancy, you can pick your image, pick your headline, pick your sentence of text, location, salary, press a button, and it's gone. And it's on all of those sites where you need it. So that gets your EVP and your implant protected and enshrined. More importantly, it gets it working hard for you internally and externally where you need it to work quickly. So
absolutely. And from an ATS perspective, the job ad toolkit and the social ad creator, these are things that can be saved as templates within your ATS. So you almost don't even need to think about it. You have your different job families or your different groups of job adverts, especially for those roles that you recruit for regularly. You save them into the ATS, you protect them, and then that way you've always got that consistency of message that goes out. And ideally, obviously, I imagine those job ads are going to be supported by video or images and that kind of thing. I guess that doesn't have to cost a fortune. You can even sort of create those yourself if you need to, want to. And sometimes it's a bit more real, a bit more authentic, dare I say.
It's a really good point, because things change over time, people change over time, and nicely shit happens. In 6 months' time, I don't know, we're putting together a job ad toolkit for a global client at the moment. Some of those TA people in some of those locations won't be here in 6 months' time. So we need something where we've got one version of the truth, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, the tools that will make success happen are enshrined. And as people come and go, they join in leave, or they go on mat leave, or they get pulled off on other projects, it doesn't matter, because we've got our one version of the truth enshrined. Also, for a lot of those global recruiters, talent might only be 10 or 15% of the job, and the rest of the time they're doing general HR or ER stuff or payroll. And we're saving them time, we're giving them world-class tools, and more importantly, we're not reinventing the wheel, and they're not coming up with something substandard. So to lock it in, as you say, on your ATS, lock it in through all of those tools is huge. So some examples, Giles, you can whiz through this.
Okay.
Glendona are a leisure group. They run Waxy O'Connor's, which is fabulous chain of Irish pubs, fabulous hotels, Underworld, World's End in Camden, which is London's biggest grossing pub, and a whole range.
Wow.
So we've got lots of maverick managers who've done their own thing, hiring for years. New EVP, new employer brand, job ad toolkit, one way of working. Nothing. It's not about CVs over the bar anymore. It's about building talent pools. It's about hiring people who succeed and stay. It's about having a cutting edge in the marketplace. And yes, there's great creativity. The DNA team produce beautiful creative work, but it's underpinned by solid process.
So
I
guess over here it's just to provide a framework. It's not to constrain people so much. It's just to have a framework of consistency And within that, there's a certain freedom to operate and then create content.
Exactly. So lock it in with brand guidelines. Second thing is launch. We said on the list, you can get people excited, you can make people happy. So, yes, the brand guidelines. Again, Boohoo, a fairly maverick organization. People are hired to be free thinking, free spirits. But to lock in what we've done, why we've done it, why it's important. Here's all this is what we stand for as an employer and how we want to be known. This is our brand and our messaging that we're taking to market. It is massively important. Why would we spend all of that time and money developing distinct, authentic, and compelling messaging to then allow it to be diluted? So I mentioned playbooks. Superdry went through a cultural reset, new EVP and Employer Brand as the basis for it. And the idea behind the playbook was to get people excited globally about this new era for Superdry, but also to make it really clear who we are, what we stand for, why we are, why we stand for, and more importantly, what we're not. So it's a bit Marmite, it's organized chaos, and they love it that way. And if you don't, if you want every I dotted and T crossed, forget it. If you want to come into an organization that thrives on fluidity and agility, Superdry is your place. But we have to enshrine that in the playbook. It can't be, if we're going to make it tribal, we can't have different people's perceptions or several versions of the truth.
I guess these examples are, super slick, super well produced by you with the client. But I guess around this is actually quite a lot that organizations to a degree can do for themselves in terms of providing that framework or that roadmap, if you like.
Yeah, completely. It's like we practice this. So Paperfly are a much smaller organization. 200 something people in Norway, Germany, Czech Republic, UK and the States, growing organically at a significant rate. Sorry, just go back to Superdry, growing at a significant rate. And also, that's it. Grown, but also got 3 or 4 different acquisitions in there. So for these guys, it was about, here's your copy toolkit. Here's how you lock in your EVP and your employer brand. Here are the key messages. So the usual job ad stuff to go on the ATS and go out into their social media. But here are the key messages. So if we're trying to hire a tech in Norway, or we're trying to hire a tech in the Czech Republic, we're trying to hire salespeople in the UK or Germany, or these are the key messages. So this is what needs to go into all the candidate comms. When the managers are doing the interviewing, here are the key messages that they need to get in there, so that having filled the funnel with people who are interested and interesting, we're actively doing everything we can to convert them into the paper flyers, because they're going to get counter offered wherever it is they're coming from. They've probably got several other recruitment processes running at any one time. So this is our ability to have the right words in the right order at the right time. So not just the copy toolkit, it's the messaging matrix and getting the managers to do the selling job for us throughout the process. And they're only 200 people. We set them up for success, leave them to it, and they've got a great internal team that can run it. In addition to job ad toolkits, the other thing is social ad creator. As you say, you can set this up on your ATS or set it up within your TA teams, and it locks in your messaging. So it's, we've all seen it when you go on LinkedIn or you go on Facebook, or somebody's done a TikTok video and it's off brand, off message, clunky and awful. Just guarantee the quality and get a return on the investment you've made. So lots of people were asking us the question, oh my God, I've done the EVP and Employer Brand. What do I do next? The first thing you do is you lock in your investment with the social ad creator, job ad toolkit, playbook, a decent launch, and the brand guidelines.
It's just a quick question for you. Probably take your piece a little bit, but I've seen quite a lot of talk recently about, especially around social. So that collectively as TA, resourcing, recruitment, recruiters, we've got this challenge that whereas perhaps a couple of years ago, we're able to stick a job advert, albeit it needs to be a decent quality, on a job board and expect applications. They just simply aren't there anymore. So that spurs us on to think, well, we've got to be able to engage with people where they live, so passive talent's a lot more, and ultimately that's likely to be social media. There's quite a lot of talk now about almost a bit of a cadence building up to encouraging somebody to apply. So that is about creating the brand awareness, the need, the desire, and then hitting with the job advert. Is that the kind of approach you'd recommend?
Yes, but with the caveat that every situation is different, every client is different.
Right.
So we're I mean, two of the hardest areas to hire at the moment are for vets and GPs. And we've got really successful programmatic campaigns running for both.
Right.
So we're serving social media messaging in the communities where they're gathering, and it's not a recruitment message. We're not saying, "Come on in, roll up, roll up, roll up." What we're doing is we're building our reputation in those messaging, and then we're earning the right to have a recruitment conversation. So with the GP,
it's quite an important point to make. You can't just go in and hit them hard straight away with "come work for us" without giving them a really strong reason. We're actually creating that desire associated with the brand and what it stands for and what it might offer in terms of a potential employer.
Completely. And if you're a smaller organization, that doesn't take a huge amount of money or budget to have that sort of sniper shot at your target audience, because that's what we're really doing. You guys are out there shooting with elephant guns, throwing as much brown stuff at the wall and hoping it will stick. And they're wasting, they're not even spending it on it, they're just wasting that money. We spoke to an organization hiring exactly those types of people. And they're spending a fortune and getting literally nothing. It's just wallpaper. But with programmatic, you earn the right to have a recruitment discussion. The messages are very closely targeted about building your reputation as an employer, the type of employer you are, the employment experience you offer, your success as an organization, your purpose as an organization. And based upon the research we've done with the talent audience, obviously I don't know what it is the Chinese year of this year, Giles, but the way we described it to that client was it's the Chinese year of baited hooks. So we're dropping a baited hook in our programmatic advertising. And at some stage, they'll probably bite on one of them. But it's not just about dropping the baited hook. It's about what happens next. So the candidate experience for the vets and GPs, for example, don't just chuck them into a process with everybody else. That's a genuine engagement opportunity. So we had, and then it wasn't about, oh yeah, we're chucking you in a process. It's no agenda or expectation. Have another conversation with one of our vets or GPs, because frankly, it's a lot higher for vets to hire vets and GPs to hire GPs to then get them into the actual process bit.
Absolutely. And for anybody here that's got, sorry, John's making quite a lot of reference to programmatic here. It may be a theme that's familiar to some of you. If it isn't, then we are actually, funny enough, running a session, one of these sessions, in just a few weeks with Appcast, who are one of the leading providers of programmatic platforms. In essence, it's just applying your job advert spend in a more efficient and intelligent way than the traditional duration-based job adverts. But more of that for another day. I know we've got some slides to get through.
It's not a silver bullet. It's part, it's part of your mix, but you can measure the source, cost, and outcome of every talent inquiry. But add it to referrals, add it to some of the other stuff you're doing, add it to social media, add it to employee advocacy, and it's a good part of the mix. And it's not just vets and GPs. We've been successful in hiring tech staff as well. So the key thing is it's about serving it in the communities where they're gathering. And it's more geared to the passive candidate than the active. Yeah, great. Okay.
For anybody that can't quite see these slides, I'm lucky because I got them on my larger laptop screen. John, we're more than happy to send across this deck afterwards.
Yeah,
for anybody that like it.
Yeah,
I put John's LinkedIn profile in there, but just message me. More than happy to send it out. Perhaps we'll include a link to it with the blog that we'll create after this, and a link through to the session as well, because we're covering quite a lot here.
All right.
So don't worry about scribbling everything down. There's a lot of great stuff here.
Do you want to go on to the next question?
Yeah. So we've got quite a lot to cover today.
Yeah. So we're only little. We don't have the big budget. How do we activate it in the market? This comes out a lot. The motto we use is not the size of the fight in the dog. It's the size of not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. So let's just focus our efforts. We don't need 60-something million people. We know really clearly who they are. We can probably find where they are, and we can press the buttons to then earn the right to that recruitment conversation. The other sort of glib thing we say, in addition to it's not the size of the dog in the fight, is, let's talk about your competitors. What do they really, really not want you to do? So let's do that. Let's build our reputation upstream. Let's build a fantastic employment offer, and serve it into our network and our network's network. Let's build ourselves as a magnet brand. Let's be seen as interesting and interested. And there's various other other tactics that we'll get involved with on a client by client basis. But whoever you are, wherever you are, there is a plan of action for you. It's about having focus. So social ad creator, we talked about before. We can whiz through that. About getting your messages out in a compelling and consistent way, and really building your brand and building some element of differentiation. Get Living are a build to rent business based in London, hugely competitive marketplace. They're ahead of the majority of other build to rent businesses. Talent is really hard to find. Talent is really hard to keep. So what we're driving for them is employee advocacy. So we've got 6 representatives from across the business. One in IT, one in finance, one in relationship management, one in marketing, a couple of others, and against a very clearly defined process. They're talking about the employment experience of Get Living, the purpose of the business, the great things they do on a daily basis, how they're pushing the frontiers of build to rent, how they're providing genuine communities. And I don't know if you saw that survey, Giles, but less than 15% of candidates believe what the C-suite say. Less than 25% believe what the TA and marketing teams say. Sorry, everybody. More than 66% believe what the existing employees say, which is why Glassdoor and the review sites are so important. So by using the employees as our most authentic, articulate, enthusiastic advocates of the employment experience is taking us to a different place. So we're penetrating the network and the networks. We're getting more unsolicited applications. We're a magnet brand. People are seeking us out. They're also coming to interviews more motivated, more informed, and we've had a knock-on effect internally because people are taking great pride in the stuff that their colleagues are putting out there. So they're only a small business. They're only 100 and something people, but they're giving bloody noses to the rest of the marketplace every day. By being there on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, identifying and harnessing and deploying employee advocacy is not difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You really just need to identify those people within your organizations that almost sort of live and breathe your brand a little bit. Those that are really well connected with the people that you're trying to target, and then give them a framework in which to operate and get them started.
Yeah. We've got a process we follow. I mean, everybody gets really worried because the thing is, yes, you want the messaging going out there, but you have to mitigate risk. Also, everything we put out in the talent space has to reinforce and never dilute and underpin the corporate brand. So marketing often get pretty twitchy, unsurprisingly. But in addition to the slides, I'll share the process.
That'd be really helpful.
I'll share
really valuable.
Because it's a bit like developing your EVP employer brand. You do beautiful creative things, really clever things, but they're underpinned by really boring things like structure, discipline, process, measurement. We've never seen a client out there that didn't need to blow the dust off their referral scheme. So yes, social ad creator, yes, employee advocacy. If you want to access your network and your network's network, it's not about referring a friend, it's about networking your network's network. And wherever we go, we find a referral scheme that's got an extra 10%, 20%, 50% that just hasn't been leveraged.
Yeah.
Whiz on, Giles. Okay, time-wise, just keep whizzing. Keep whizzing.
Someone went to stop.
Yeah, this was another referral scheme we did, but I'm just conscious of time and people having other meetings. Poaching cards are really good. So when for Glendola, who we mentioned earlier, for Jules and for other organizations, give poaching cards to some of the hiring managers and TA teams. You get really good service in a hospitality setting or in a retail setting. Just give them a card, say, you were brilliant today and you're probably not looking for a job, but if you are, come and see me or just contact me. And for Jules, which was that example, Glendola and a few others, they're just the gift that keeps on giving because you're giving them a compliment and getting a candidate in the top of the funnel. I've sort of touched on these a few times. Got a lot of people say, I can't wait 12 weeks, 16 weeks. I need to move now. So what do we advise them? So the answer is, you can whiz on, Giles. Follow the same process. There is a set process which will which will deliver a distinct, authentic and compelling EVP for you, but do it more quickly. You still got to set objectives. There's no shortcuts there. You still got to do the discovery. There's no shortcuts there. But instead of something that's, that's sort of far-reaching and broad and deep, we can develop employer brand or EVP light or even campaign themes that gets your message out there quickly in front of the target audience. Almost recruitment advertising in old money, if anybody can remember those things. And then
so in other words, you can get out the gate quite quickly. There is a process to flow, but you can still get started relatively quickly and get it deployed.
Completely. Develop your key deliverables, so whatever they are, your job act toolkit and then most importantly, where are you sending them? So we've done a great job, and we're now sending them. So have we got a decent career site? Have we got a decent ATS? The number of organisations you see where they've done the work upstream, and then they've got bright new shiny sales messages going out to the candidate, who then send them to a horrific ATS or horrific landing page or horrific career site.
Could not agree more, and it's why I'm not going to do a big sell job on Job Train, but we have just launched our all new candidate experience, and we are starting to move each one of our clients over to the new experience. And a key part of that was our recognition of the fact that candidates no longer want to get put through a registration process. They want it to be easy to use on a mobile, really clear messaging, clear signposting, and just elegant and easy to use. We all live in a transactional world today in terms of what we do on websites using our mobiles and other things like that. And we do also now offer a career site builder, so that actually, even if you don't have a big budget, you can still start to build out your careers pages, landing pages, that kind of thing in terms of where you're sending them. Yeah. So some ATSs offer that, and it's something that you should be exploring with them.
We did a kickoff session with a new client this week, and we looked at their recruitment efficiencies in terms of, initial inquiries, first interview. So initial inquiries, first interview, second interview, offer, taken on, success in role. And it was just horrific. And, they've done a huge amount of work at the front end on creating a whole load of new messaging, cost them a huge amount of money. But in terms of the number of people, let's go all the way down, start with the end in mind, success in mind, success in role, it's almost none.
All that hard work just goes to pot.
Yeah.
Which,
so it's, there are no shortcuts. You've got to do it properly. And you can get stuff off the ground quickly. We can whiz through Electrolux. It's a job ad toolkit. So this is the typical thing. So wherever we're out hiring, we've got one message. We're understanding, we're hiring a different type of person for a different type of job. The hiring managers have got a choice. They're HRBPs or TA people who barely, who don't do a huge amount of talent attraction. Their HR job is all consuming, but they've got the tools available. This was the programmatic campaign for Health Hero hiring GPs. Again, we didn't have time or the bandwidth to do all singing or dancing EVP and Employer Brand, but with great programmatic, great candidate experience, taking them to a landing page in a slick and effective manner. So we're turning initial inquiries into an engaged and motivated candidate who is going to go through the process in a positive fashion is key. But it's not, you can't just do the front end stuff. You've got to follow it all the way through to onboarding, all the way through to first day, all the way through to the first 3 months.
It's really compelling messaging. Love it.
It was great, actually. I mean, obviously you see the joy of our job is you get right in under the skin of organisations.
Yeah.
And there's all the stuff on the news about the shortage of GPs, and we spent a week talking to GPs. And the key messaging in that particular one was, we can remember why you wanted to be a GP, and it's all here from you. It's all here for you. And that's the one that most people responded to. Oasis, again, they just had to fill their vacancies. The cost of locums, the cost of attrition was killing them. The cost of empty surgeries was killing them. So we had to get that compelling messaging out there quickly. Didn't have time to do all singing, all dancing EVP or employer brand. It was very much employer brand light and effectively campaign themes, but laser focused on the type of people that we knew that they were going to have to hire. So you don't have to do an all singing, all dancing EVP and employer brand to fill your funnel and get people who will succeed and stay.
Okay.
Okay, are we all right time wise, Giles?
Yeah. We've got a little bit, about 5 minutes left. So,
all right. So we can send out the process to people in terms of objectives. There's no trite answer, but in terms of objectives of what the process looks like, go on to the next slide and we'll show you the objectives. So, and again. This is the seven-stage process. When we were at Barclays in our previous agency, the CIPD asked us to come and set up the CIPD way for developing an EVP employer brand. So unsurprisingly, we followed the same process. The two most important bits of that process, people, are the first two, and setting objectives. So it's different for different clients, but typically it would include cost per hire, time to hire, building profile and reputation, success in role, obviously, diversity, equality and diversity targets, obviously, cutting attrition, always features, building EMPS score. For some clients, we include building your customer MPS score, because obviously it's employees who deliver on the promises to customers every day. And there's probably several others, but for each client, we'll sit down, recruitment efficiencies I mentioned earlier, we'll sit down and agree, right, this is the suite of objectives. If you've got some measurements in place, then great, because you can't improve what you don't actually measure. If you haven't got those benchmark measurements in, that's all right, because we can sit down with your TA teams, we can sit down with broader HR, we can sit down with your ATS provider, and we can set those concrete objectives so that where there's cost, hire, time to hire, success in role, attrition, we can set them for you so that when we go back to the business and say, look at the value we've added, we've got it in an objective format. The second most important one is discovery, so that everything we do going forwards, and it's not just DNA, there's lots of great agencies who will follow a similar process. Everything has to be based in a foundation of fact. We can't go out telling the market what we think they want to hear, what the C-suite think they want to hear. It's got to be based on a foundation of fact, and that comes from one-to-ones, focus groups, and but we can share that process and people can see it in more detail when they need to.
Absolutely.
The last one, the business case. So I don't know if you want to whiz onto that, and we'll do it really quickly for everyone.
Okay.
Because I know that one came up more recently. So from a business case, how do I create it, sell it in? Really, often we get clients say, I need to do a presentation for the business case. Can you please tell me great things to say? Or we often write the presentation for them. So this is an investment, not a cost. So what you will do with your EVP and your employer brand is you will increase the quality of your resourcing, decrease the cost, and most importantly, ensure a legacy of improvement going forward. So the examples that we'll share that we won't go through, MAN are one of them, save them 660 grand on their recruitment costs, cut their attrition from 20-something% down to 6%. But they had those benefits in year 2, year 3, year 4, not just in year 1. So we can prove the ROI. Whatever you spend on agencies in terms of all of those things is probably too much. We can help you work out the effects on customers of your attrition. There is a significant cost of doing nothing, whether it's your existing attrition or your existing lack of efficiency or profile. And the key bit, the second from last bullet point about it's for 99% of organizations is not about finding the budget, because you're already spending or wasting the money within your organization.
It never ceases to amaze me how much organizations spend on recruitment advertising and recruitment marketing. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah. I mentioned Glendola, that they're one of the best bits of research I've ever done is I sat in a pub with the HR director. You can jump out of these now, Giles, if you want.
I will do. We've got a couple of questions for you to answer as well. So
right. So yeah, we sat in the pub with the HR director, and we talked about the cost of attrition, rehiring, managers interviewing, re-inducting. But the biggest cost of attrition was a really experienced bar person would do about £2,800 in a busy shift, pure theatre, brilliant, in a big Irish bar. They're all 6 deep. And he's upselling constantly. And a sort of mid-range bar person is about 1,200 quid on a busy shift, and a newbie's between 600 and 800 quid on a busy shift. And that was the cost of attrition. Forget all of the managers, time hiring, inducting, advertising. It was the cost was what wasn't going through the tills. That was the cost.
Wow. A couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
So we've got a question from Natalie. Would you suggest a careers site or a careers page? And I think what Natalie probably means there is obviously you've got some websites today which are basically one long scroll versus perhaps you have a top navigation and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know that we support both in terms of our new careers site builder, but it's actually a question I started to ask myself in terms of what's better.
My personal preference, I think, is a career site. I think you can do more with it. I think you can get your personality over in a much better way. I think you get the user experience right. You can take them directly to the content that they want. You know, the candidates are pretty lazy. They just want what they want and they want it right in front of them straight away.
Yeah.
I think you can get your personality over in both, but I think with a career site, it just gives you more opportunity to do that.
Great. Question from Will. Thanks, Will. A LinkedIn live page is a good way to go in terms of showcasing employer brand.
I would say yes, as part of the broader solution. We talk, we talk to people who contact us to say we've got an HR system that's got an ATS attached. So we tick that box. They say we bought a Glassdoor license and we've got a LinkedIn license. So we thought all our problems would be solved. And here we are 12 months down the line and it's all got worse. So
yeah, it's not a panacea at all.
No, they're almost sold as those silver bullets, but they're really not. And a LinkedIn live page as part of the broader, solution, absolutely. In the right way, you've got big targets in place, and you break it down into manageable chunks, and you put a plan behind each one. And it's not that you've got them, is what they can do for you and how you measure it. So, yes, as part of the broader mix, planned and managed in the right way.
Yeah, you'll see there's a theme running through this, as there quite often is, and that's about measurement at the start and measurement throughout the process, checking in. I think you made reference to NPS, that's Net Promoter Score system. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. It's all about whether that individual would recommend the product, service, workplace that they operate in, and what are the reasons for that. And it is very, very useful in terms of a bar of measurements in terms of people's perception of a brand or product or service or experience, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Finally, got a question from Jane. Jane, thank you. How do you help clients ensure diversity and inclusion baked into their EVP, and any activity is inclusive? That's it's quite a tricky one.
Yeah. Every client are at different stages on their D&I journey.
Yeah.
And for whoever they are, wherever they are, there's an element of current reality and there's an element of aspiration. And the key bit for us, we're a really easygoing bunch. We're really flexible and amenable, but the non-negotiable is your EVP and your employer brand have to be distinct. So it's got to be uniquely you. Can't be anybody else. It's got to be you. It's got to be authentic. So what we're selling on the outside is the true reality on the inside. And it's got to be compelling. We've got to go and work hard for us. And from a diversity and inclusion point of view, that authenticity is key, because our existing staff will call us out if we don't recognize where we are on the journey, what's coming next, why and how we're going to get there. And anybody we're out going trying to hire is also going to call us out. So the bit that we will do is we will give them a reality check around where they are on their diversity and inclusion journey. And for some, there's a lot of tokenistic stuff you see out there. And we, as part of the discovery, we will feedback exactly what the real world is, what their employee value is, how they compare, how the market sees them, how they compare against their competitors. So they've got a really clear, objective view of where they are at the moment. And sometimes that's quite a difficult conversation. But if we're going to achieve great results together, you have to have honesty in the partnership. So we have to be really clear where they are at the moment and what the aspiration is on the journey. And also it means lots of different things. So we've got clients where actually they've got far too many younger people, and it looks like an organization where older people aren't invited. So we've managed to fix that and have great benefits. but it's about authenticity is the key, and it's about understanding the good that you currently do. Are you on this journey? Is it we have different clients where we're breaking it down to, is this the legal imperative? You're just trying to not break employment law. Is it the moral imperative? Just want to be seen to be doing the right thing, or is there a genuine business case behind this? So let's nail it down, and we'll go on the journey with all three probably, but let's focus on what's important. And yes, if we feel there's authenticity, we feel there's commitment, then absolutely we can reach candidates in those hard to reach talent pools. We've got clients where we're giving the managers unconscious bias training, so that rather than diversity training just be something you do, on a wet Wednesday afternoon in November, it's baked throughout the whole process. So everything the managers do has best practice written all over it, as opposed to an add-on.
Yeah, let's face it, it's always going to exist. It's just more about being aware of the fact that it exists within each and every one of us. But it's really good advice, because I think it's one of those where it sometimes can appear like a bit of a minefield. Where on earth do we start? How do we start our journey? It's a bit scary. We can maybe run the risk of tokenism, which you referred to, and let's face it, I've seen enough of that on our travels, and it's like we won't do anything, which is the wrong thing to do. But great advice. Conscious of time, John, this has been amazing. We've covered so much stuff. We probably could have split it into 2 or 3 sessions. I hope everybody's got value from it. Good luck to Alex for writing up this webinar, because we've covered so much. But we will we'll absolutely make the slides available after this session. This session will be available too. Brilliant, John. Thank you. And in 2 weeks' time, we've got another really cool session. We've got Sharon Benson, who is HR Practitioner of the Year, worked with loads of organisations. Really, really great guest. And she's going to discuss and explain exactly how talent can take its rightful seat at the exec table. Too often, talent recruiting, resourcing is seen as a cost function, not a profit centre. We're going to cover all of that and help to elevate our standing within each organisation which we operate. She's brilliant. We've worked with her for years now, and a session not to be missed. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great week, and see you all soon. Cheers.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks, everybody.